And we went over the Ravens signing of Jaire Alexander a little bit last week. I want to dive a little bit more into the global look at why you do something like this. Now, of course, a lot of people have talked about Jaire's existing relationship with Lamar Jackson as the Ravens try to do a deal with Lamar. And I think that is a side benefit. But I think what less people have paid attention to is how this is part of a trend the Ravens have really taken ownership of over the last decade or so. And, when we talk about free agency, when everybody's heading into March, it's about the guys who are 25, 26, 27 years old that are going to get the massive second contracts, the life-changing second contracts. And as people like me warn, oftentimes those contracts don't wind up looking very good 2 or 3 years down the road. It is very much a seller's market. It is not a buyer's market. It is a market that favors the players, and the players sometimes get overvalued on that market. I'm not saying that in any sort of way that's offensive to players. It just is what it is. When you do a deal early, generally the team has a little bit of an advantage because they have your contractual rights. When a player makes it to the market, he's going to have the advantage. So how do you make the most out of that market? Well, the Patriots during the back end of their dynasty, and now the Ravens over the last 10 years or so have taken advantage of it by leaning in on signing third contract veterans. And to me, this is very, very interesting. There are so many names, and I don't know if many people are paying attention to this. Guys who are on their third contract, some of these guys into their 30s, that the Ravens have signed and gotten a lot out of on the back end of their careers. Guys like Mark Ingram, I have him down as having signed a 3-year, $15 million deal with the team going into his 9th year. He had over 1,200 scrimmage yards his first year with the Ravens, which was also Lamar Jackson's first year as a starter, as a full-time starter there. Lamar wins the MVP in part because Mark Ingram was able to put together that kind of year on the back end of his career. Some more names: Eric Weddle, Earl Thomas, Calais Campbell, Kevin Zeitler, Jadeveon Clowney, Kyle Van Noy. Derrick Henry from it last year is a great example of it. And so why does this work out so often? Well, I think there are really a few reasons why the Ravens have leaned into this strategy, why the Patriots leaned into this strategy at the end of their dynasty as well. Number one, there is some certainty into what you're getting. You don't have to guess how a player is going to react to getting paid. Most of these guys have already gotten paid. Their financial securities their financial futures are secure. You're not guessing at how this guy is going to handle having a couple of extra zeros on the balance in his bank account. He's already been through that. So you have that level of certainty, how he's going to handle money. You also have an idea of who he is as a player. There's a longer track record there than there is with a guy who's only in his 4th year. Sometimes those guys coming out of year 4 or coming out of year 5 might have really gone through a bounce at the end of their rookie contracts. So you might only have a year or two of track record there. With all of these guys, all the guys that I named, and Jaire Alexander, of course, is in that group as well. You've got a much longer track record. And then there's a leadership component of it. And that part of it's interesting too, because in a lot of cases, you don't make it that long in the NFL without having been put in some position of leadership. It doesn't mean that everybody is a Calais Campbell type of leader, but I think everybody who makes it to year 8, year 9, year 10 has been put in some sort of position in leadership over the course of his career and is ready to assume that type of role when he gets to a third contract. And so the Ravens are taking advantage of that as well. I think it's a smart strategy. It's something the Ravens, again, have really leaned into over the last decade and to great effect. And Jaire Alexander, if he can stay healthy, which is a huge if because he's missed 20 games over the last 2 years, could be the latest example of